Official visit season is taking shape at the U. Some of the best players in the entire country are going to be on campus throughout the month of June. Let's go.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, your host, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. So let me just cherry pick some of the highlights of players who are going to be visiting Miami officially in the month of June. Several of these were just announced and locked in today. You're going to have first weekend of June, five-star defensive lineman Kamarion Franklin on June 2nd. Five-star defensive lineman David Stone and five-star edge Dylan Sterwart will be on campus June 9th. Five-star running back Jerrick Gibson. I know he's a Texas lean, but maybe Miami can knock that OV out of the park on June 9th. Five-star defensive lineman Justin Scott, my dude, on June 16th. Four-star athlete Ricky Knight III on June 23rd. Four-star safety Jalen Hayward on June 23rd. Five-star cornerback Ellis Robinson, June 23rd. Some Georgia verbal commits in there. There are others, of course, but those are some of the highlights on players who are going to be OVing to Miami in June. With so much to talk about, we had to bring in one of our best pals when it comes to talking recruiting or anything else. Brad Tejeda is with us from Canes Insight. Brad, good evening, sir. We usually do these in the morning, but, here we are. How you been, man?
Great, man. Can't complain, man. It's always a pleasure being on Locked On with you, man. Finally got some picture for you this time. I know usually I'm on audio, man. So great to be back, talk some Canes football. And June is right around the corner. And like you said, man, a lot of great official visits already locked in. And we'll see what happens here in June. But it looks like the loafers will be out a lot.
Now, I want to bring up some players that, Miami is definitely battling with other schools. Like, what can you tell me about the recruitment of David Stone, the five-star defensive lineman? Because it really, Brad, it feels like a tug of war between Miami and Oklahoma, right? Because he's from the Oklahoma area, so maybe the Sooners have kind of a dream school thing going for him. But I know Miami's had him on campus so much. He was just at the pool party last week. What do you think it's going to take for the Canes to overtake Oklahoma in the recruitment of the five-star defensive lineman from IMG Academy?
I mean, listen, he's obviously an Oklahoma native. Anyone who's been following his recruitment lately, it's obviously between Oklahoma, Miami, and Michigan State as of right now. Florida got in the mix late, but I would say it's between those three schools. And again, this is a guy that, like you mentioned, who's visited campus several times. Like you said, just recently here over the past weekend, got to the pool party with Mario Cristobal at his home, had a great time with a few other guys as well that, some we can't name publicly, but I could honestly assure you that it is some big names. But with David Stone, he's officially visiting June 9th, which is also great to see him locked in with a bunch of other IMG guys that we'll be talking about. I know that staff was just there for the spring game. So that's great to see. The relationship has always been there with a guy like David Stone. At the end of the day, you got to hope that the relationship he has built with Jason Taylor and some of the other guys will be something that will hopefully push him to want to commit. In a most recent interview, he kind of said he doesn't really have a decision date. It's kind of a feel in the time moment. If he feels like on an official visit, this is the time, this is the place, this is the university I want to lock in with, he's going to do it. But this is a guy that if he does commit elsewhere besides Miami in the month of June, look for this guy to be someone they heavily recruit all the way to the international signing day until that signatures on the paper, so to speak. But I like where we sit with David Stone. Usually when you talk about guys that we recruit that visit Miami multiple times, and this is a situation, it's usually a local guy and someone in their backyard. But this someone in David Stone, like you mentioned, who's coming across the nation every time to visit Miami multiple times, that should tell you a lot.
And I mentioned that there are some players committed elsewhere who are OVing in June at Miami. Guys like Ellis Robinson, the five-star cornerback from IMG Academy, and four-star safety Jalen Hayward from Rockledge, Florida. These guys are both Georgia verbal commits, and they are both visiting in June. What's it going to take from Miami? Because it seems like there's definitely some smoke there, Brad, for both of them, where at least in a guy like Robinson, I know he says all the right things about Georgia, but he said it a few weeks ago. He's invited other programs to shoot their shot and see if they can overtake Georgia.
Yeah, with those two in particular, obviously Georgia's the team to beat, but Miami seems like the contender for both of those guys. And specifically with someone like Ellis Robinson, who's also going to be visiting June 9th that weekend with a bunch of the other IMG guys like Jerrick Gibson, like David Stone, like we mentioned, and a few others. Ellis Robinson also has some connection to Miami, right? He is on the 7-on-7 team with Team Raw. So that is another good pipeline that Miami is slowly trying to get that relationship similar to IMG and Miami Central and high schools. But with a guy like Ellis Robinson, he is a overall playmaker. He's someone that could be a difference maker. From people that I have heard and talked to that have coached Ellis Robinson, especially in the 7-on-7 circuit, these are same coaches that have coached a guy like Cormani McLean, and people think Ellis Robinson already has the potential to be better than a guy like Cormani McLean. When you talk about all the tools and intangibles, the measurables, what he's able to bring to the table, they feel like he's a lot more further along and more polished at this point than what Cormani McLean was at the same time. So that should tell you a lot. And I feel good about Miami. He's came out and said publicly many times that Miami is pretty much the top contender. So I like where we stand with someone like him. And Jalen Hayward, this is another guy that Miami has built a good relationship with. Someone that they have been consistently on all throughout the last few months, even though he's a Georgia commit. This is someone like Miami feels very confident that could lock in and be in this secondary room, because when you really look at it from a recruiting standpoint, from the outside looking in, there's only a few targets that Miami is going after. You've already locked in Dylan Day, which is a good Coach Guidry guy that's under the radar. You also locked down Isaiah Thomas, who's, from Canada, so another under the radar guy. Now you're starting to get into the realm where most of these guys you're going to be targeting and going after are going to be against some of the bigger powerhouses. You got a guy in Ricky Knight out at Benjamin who you're fighting for against your rival in Florida State. You also got someone, Jalen Hayward, Ellis Robinson, and also Jamari Howard, who's a guy that's been popped up on the radar. We just got Max Lawrence, walk-on quarterback, who's the teammate of Jamari Howard. I got to speak to both of those guys in the last 24, 48 hours. And it seems like Miami's doing a very good job, and Max Lawrence as well, as entertaining Jamari Howard's interest. It looks like it's going to be a big three battle for someone like him, though.
I love to hear that. And by the way, I want to let the everydayers know, and you don't even have to be an everydayer if you're here right now. We're going to be joined shortly by the man we call the ambassador. Judd Anderson is going to be hopping in here shortly. 2024 Miami Hurricanes quarterback commit. He's locked in his official visit. He's already locked in with Miami, but he's getting his OV. I think his is going to be on June 23rd. So I'm going to ask him some of his expectations for his official visit when he comes on, and also how he's recruiting others, because there's a reason why we call this dude the ambassador. But I do have some more to talk with Brad Tejeda about, including, do they have any chance of catching Texas for Jerrick Gibson, the 5-star running back? So we'll get to that and more here on Locked On Canes. Keep it locked. We have so much more to go. Guys, I've got myself locked into Bird Dogs. These are the most comfortable shorts I've ever tried, my friends. I'm absolutely loving these. I look better and I feel great wearing Bird Dogs. The stretchy fabric makes my legs look great, and they're comfier than any of my other shorts and pants. They give me the freedom to wear one pair of shorts on the golf course, to a meeting, a date, or hanging out with friends. These shorts from Bird Dogs, they just feel like summer. Guys, we know Florida, South Florida gets really hot in the summer. I can breathe in these. I feel casual when I need to. They're comfortable. I wear these all day. I'm loving these Bird Dog shorts. I can't emphasize that enough, my friends. And so here's what you need to do. If you want to be comfortable and look great like me, go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. And when you enter promo code LOCKEDONCollege, they throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. So check out Bird Dogs. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts, and available free on YouTube. Thank you for joining us, especially for an evening drop today. As you guys can probably hear it in my voice, I'm getting over this nasty cold. So it's like let me just rest and relax throughout the morning and the day, and then I'll let Brad Tejeda and Judd Anderson carry me through the evening. So, Brad, we did an episode the other day about how Miami made the top 5 finalists for Jerrick Gibson, the 5-star running back out of IMG Academy, who we're talking a lot about. And then, a lot of the comments are like, why are you wasting your time talking about this guy? He's going to Texas. He's not coming to Miami. Okay, well, listen, folks, you don't always get what you're expecting, before June. Let's at least get through official visit season. But, Brad, I do admit Gibson seems absolutely like a Texas lean at this point. Do you agree with that? And what's it going to take to overtake the Longhorns?
Yeah, Alex, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you, man. Jerrick Gibson is someone who I'm pretty familiar with, who's actually originally from where I am, out here in Gainesville, Florida.
That's right.
He went to Gainesville High School, started his career there, and then obviously transferred to IMG. But this is someone that, since I've talked to some of the family members as well, this is a young man that he wants to go to a program where he feels like he could be NFL Sunday ready developed. He wants to go to a coach that has the resume, has the track record, that can show whether it's him itself or some guys that he has brought into the league. And Texas is a school that he's been eyeing for quite a long time. From what I've gathered, Texas, Georgia, those were some of his dream schools ever since he started playing football at a young age. Obviously, a team like Florida, where he grew up here in Gainesville for a while, was obviously another dream school as well. But Texas and Miami seem like the top 2 teams right now. And when you have a coach like Tashard Choice, who did what he did over at Georgia Tech, what he's able to do for a team like Texas right now, they're one of the hottest teams in the country right now when it comes to recruiting. They're doing all the right things. And this is their year to kind of prove on the football field that they could continue what they're, promising a lot of these high-end recruits that they're bringing in. And it feels like, Tashard Choice and Jerrick Gibson have probably the best relationship out of anybody in the country when you talk to Jerrick Gibson. But if there was a team to beat, besides Texas, it seems like Miami is doing all the right things as far as a relationship standpoint, and just continuously putting their foot on the gas pedal and being relentless, communicating with on a daily to weekly basis. Jerrick Gibson hasn't been shy, along with many other recruits that you talk to, that Miami is always that team that seems like they're recruiting them the hardest. Same thing with a guy like David Stone we mentioned earlier. Jerrick Gibson falls in that same bracket, and this is a guy that, even though if he does commit to Texas, you never know what's going to happen to a coach like Tashard Choice in the next year if he gets an NFL opportunity. So you have to continue to build that relationship, continue to recruit and be relentless all the way till National Signing Day, because you never know what's going to happen.
Last cycle, Miami pulled in 2 5-star players and some other guys who were on the borderline. Like, at one point, Jaden Wayne was a 5-star. He committed to Miami. They took it away for whatever reason. But you did get Pancake Honcho and Francis Mauingoa, who were both 5-star players. I don't know. Do you have any feel, Brad, at this point, how many 5-stars Miami might be able to land in this cycle? Could it be 2 or more again this year, or is that an uphill climb?
I think 2 or more is definitely in the realm and possibility. When you look at the offensive side of the football, you look at a guy like Jeremiah Smith or Brandon Baker. Those are the type of guys that are probably on the outside looking in. It's going to be tough to land someone like either one of those guys. But again, we have the relationship with both of those young men, and we're going to continue to do what we can in order to land those guys. But from a realistic standpoint, you probably don't have get either one of those guys in the class. As far as the defense side of the ball, though, that's where it becomes a different story, Alex. As we know, the defensive line is at the top of the list as far as priority and as far as targets of what we're going after. And there's multiple guys on that defensive side of the ball that we have realistic shots and opportunity at. You got a guy in Elijah Rushing. You got David Stone. You got Kamarion Franklin. You got T.A. Cunninghams. I mean, these are guys that are on the realm of 4-star or already 5-star that could potentially get that bump. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, you talk about a guy like Aiden Breland and Justin Scott, they have relationships within each other, along with the relationship that they're building with Miami, to where that could be a kind of a 1-2 punch. I know in this day and age, you don't really look at the combo, or, if this guy comes, he's going to tag along with me. But it seems like some of these guys we may be able to hit on a pitch like that, especially when you talk about the IMG guys. We were able to land a bunch of the IMG guys last class. When you look at this class, it looks like we have a realistic shot at landing, potentially 6 guys from IMG this class. So we'll see what happens. The way the official visits are looking, it looks like the staff is doing a good job at grouping these young men in, whether it's from the same high school or just the relationships that they built within each other. And I like the position of need. Jason Taylor is on, National Recruiter of the Year watch already. So this is going to be a big opportunity for someone like Jason Taylor to submit and implant himself in the recruiting world and land a lot of these big fish we're talking about.
Well, we could talk about Jason Taylor all day, but the best recruiter for the Miami Hurricanes is now with us. The ambassador himself, Judd Anderson, class of 2024 quarterback who is committed to Miami. Judd, can't thank you enough for taking the time again. And I saw you locked in your official visit coming up at Miami. So congratulations on that.
Yes,
I'm sure you're very excited. How are you?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm good. Had a lot going on this past week, so it's been really good.
Well, yeah, and on this past week, I told you this in private. I wished I could have been out there to watch you throw at Elite 11 Atlanta. I did have a colleague out there who had a lot of nice things to say about you. Tell me about that experience out there in those workouts. What did you feel like you did well? And is there anything, you feel like you're still working on?
Yeah, it was definitely fun to go out there and compete. I mean, I thought our group was probably the most stacked of all the Elite 11 regionals. Probably, I mean, you had guys like Jaden Davis, Aaron Nolan, and I give those guys a lot of credit. I mean, they're absolute studs and they can ball. And so I felt like I held my own and I did what I do. And so I felt I did a lot of things great, just working on those under center drops and really getting a lot of stuff they want like out of you. And it's a lot of uncomfortable. They try to make you as uncomfortable as possible. And that heat and that Georgia heat too is crazy. So it was definitely a fun experience, and getting to do that was just really special.
Joe, what's going on, man? This is Brad. I want to ask you, man, obviously you go into this Elite 11, it was one of those opportunities where you could kind of bring that competitive edge back, knowing you play football, basketball, you play a lot of sports. So that competitive drive and edge is something that never fades away from you. So I know you had that going into camp, but now leaving, that type of circuit like that, seeing what you were able to bring to the table, what was the one thing that you felt like you could take away from that experience that you really felt like you learned from?
That's a great question. I felt like there was a lot of stuff I could take away from. I mean, you watch a lot of what those guys do, and I mean, the ball placement is definitely special, and that was one thing I took away. And then coaching was, I mean, there's no better coaches out there, I mean, than those guys. And all that Elite 11 staff, I mean, they were just absolutely amazing. So, I mean, just the tips and just everything, like just the little things throughout the day, that was really, really special to be able to learn from them and get that opportunity.
By the way, I want to throw a shout out to the members of our show's subtext community who threw out some questions they'd like us to ask Judd. Our guy Lowell had wanted us to ask about Elite 11, so I'm glad we got into that. Here's a question from the Giant Ninja. I love this dude. He said, this is an interesting one. Judd, do you have a favorite Miami Hurricanes player of all time? Is there anybody you look at and like, oh, that's my guy?
That's a good question. Gino Toretta, right? It's
a good one.
Yeah. I want, like, my coach, when I committed, he threw on the highlight. My head coach from my high school, he threw on the highlight tape, and he was bringing me back to the old days in Miami. So it was really, really funny. It was really funny to watch and just to really experience that guy, and he's a stud.
Yeah, Gino was awesome. That was one of obviously I'm a little older than you. Brad's slightly older than you, but I remember like Gino when I was growing up. That was like my dude. That was one of the guys who really got me into the Canes. So that's pretty cool to hear that. We got I think this was from Chalupa Batman. So you could tell us a little bit, Judd, going into your senior season of high school at Jones County. Tell us about some of your receivers, and Chalupa wants to know if you have a favorite route to throw.
Okay. Well, I think many people know about Zion Reagans. He's, an absolute speedster and one of the best receivers in this 24 cycle. But we also got some other guys too. Tyler Stewart, he's another speedster. I mean, we've got some undersized receivers, but I mean they make do with it because of the offense we run and opportunities to get them open in man coverage. We've got Javon Solomon, he's a stud. He's a 25 guy. Jacob Jackson, he's our tight end. He's about 6'2". He's a go getter and he's like guy we like to throw on fade routes and so I think they'll be well rounded and more experienced this year, and we're gonna light it up. I think on the scoreboard. So and probably my favorite route to throw right now. We're running a lot of Tennessee stuff, so it's definitely that inside go they love to run that they did a lot with Jalen Hyatt last year. I threw like 3 touchdowns on it in the spring game, so I mean it was like we were just lining people up with it. So that's the go-to for sure.
I love it. We're joined here by Miami Hurricanes quarterback commit, class of 2024, Judd Anderson, who's nice enough to take some time with us. Tell me a little bit, Judd, about your official visit coming up. Is it June 23rd? Do I have that date correct?
Yeah, the 23rd to the 25th. Yes, sir.
Awesome. And so, and I know Brad wants to get in on this a little bit as well. Everyone can see it on social media. There's a reason why we call you the ambassador, right? So, you're already committed. You're already locked in. What's that weekend going to be like for you hanging out with some of the other recruits out there who may not be committed yet to Miami? You're going to spread that gospel.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be really interesting. I think I think most of the commits are coming that weekend too. I know Juan is. I don't know when Abram's going. I saw Juan's today, but we're definitely going to be pushing for those guys hard and try to just go out and be recruiters now and try to and just have fun and enjoy ourselves, but also let these guys know where it's at and what the U is all about.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, you talk about that weekend of the 23rd, Judd. I mean, you got some big nasties there. You got your guy Wamanaya, like you mentioned, Joseph Anada, Eddie Turek, who was another offensive lineman that just announced he'll be coming the 23rd. If you really look at the list so far of at least what they have publicly announced, you don't have many skill position guys that are going to be there currently. But what I want to ask you is, you being the ambassador of this class, right? It's your job, your duty to kind of do whatever you can to bring as many playmakers to the University of Miami as possible, right?
Yes,
we talked a little earlier about your guy as far as the older Miami guys who you look up to as being that guy in Gino Torretta. I got 2 questions for you. One, who is that guy that you have built the most relationship with currently, whether it's a commit in the class or someone that we're recruiting, that you would label as your guy, whether it's a relationship building issue? That would be my first question to you. And then the second is, what who are the top 3 targets that you're wanting to go after?
Oh, so right now, I'll give you the top 3 targets first. I'm kind of looking at. It's definitely we got to get Jerrick Gibson. I mean, that's a must get. He's a must get. Chance was one of my top 3 guys before he committed, but once he and Caleb Odom, I've been talking with him a lot, trying to push for him, and then Braylon Staley, he's a stud, and then I've also been pushing for Joseph and Anada. He's coming the weekend I'm coming, like you said, so. He's a big nasty. And I think that's what the goal was to get me around all those offensive linemen and kind of see who'd they be blocking for. So I think that was the goal there.
That's fantastic stuff here. Judd Anderson, the ambassador, is with us here on Locked On Canes. And yeah, Judd, listen, if there's anything else, like I gave you this opportunity last time, I'll give it to you again. If you'd like to say anything else to Miami's fans, because you're becoming more and more beloved by the fan base. If you have any message out there for the Canes fam that, you're going to be down here in about a month visiting, what would you like people to know?
Yeah, I appreciate all the love from everybody. I mean, it's been a blessing to get that kind of support from them, and just being able to go push for guys and then be right behind me and always in my comments and just everything. I mean, it's really, really special. And that whole feel is really, really special. And I know those other recruits are feeling it. So.
Oh, there was one more thing that we got from our subtext community, and forgive me to whoever put this question in there, because I can't remember who put it out there. But as far as what before you committed to Miami, what was it like? What were the factors with Miami staff that made you feel more comfortable? Is there anything that they were doing? Did they connect with you in a way that other staffs didn't? Like, what was the difference for you?
Yeah, I think it was just being really it was the brutal honesty. I mean, like, me and my family, that's what we wanted. I mean, we wanted to be like, okay, like, where do we stand? Where's what are some of the things that we get out of Miami? And we were hit with everything that they had, and we really took it in and said, this is where I want to be. Like, that was kind of the goal of that whole trip. That first trip was because, I mean, I knew, like, I talked to Dawson and, like, in Cristobal on the phone many, many times. And I just wanted to see them in person and really feel for who they are and that whole staff. And as soon as I felt it, I was like, this is the spot.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking some time. Judd Anderson, can't wait to cover you at Miami. Can't wait to see what you got in store for your senior high school season. Thank you so much for taking the time, man, and have an awesome official visit coming up next month.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck, man, and many blessings to you on your future, man. We're glad
Yes,
you're
sir. Thank you.
Yeah, we love it. All right, guys, thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first or maybe your last listen today, because we had an evening episode for you. And for the everydayers, we're going to talk with 2023 preferred walk-on quarterback Max Lawrence is going to join us tomorrow. So it's QB week here on Locked On Canes. We'll talk to you again next time. Oh, and actually, Judd, let me ask you real quick. Have you talked to Max before? He's a really nice, outgoing dude.
I have not. I saw when he got the PW and everything kind of committed and all that. But I liked it and everything, but I haven't really talked to him. So
I got to get the two of you in a group chat together or something. Yeah. We will make it happen. Yeah. We will talk to you guys again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.